been a fun weekend, and I'm so glad everybody's come. Thank you so much, Tremors fans and Family Ties fans and all the other fans combined with my dirty tricks I play on Law and Order and all those other things I've done. So with that, please.
What was it like working with Reba McEntire?
Reba McEntire was just the best. You know, it was really one of her first outings on film, and you know, you never know what to expect with somebody who was new. She was up for anything. Just a great sport. Anytime we want to do anything rough, the only thing she was protective of, and rightly so, was her voice. You know, it's like, I don't want to scream too loud. I don't want to blow out my chords and all that stuff. And she, as a matter of fact, during the making of Tremors 1, Reba had to split for a while to do a concert somewhere for a couple days. So they boarded the film. They scheduled it such that she could get away for a couple days, and that gave me a couple days off too, which was nice. And while she went off to wherever she was doing her concert, so then she came back and resumed filming. And all I can say is she was great. She was great. She has an addiction to catsup, I'll tell you that. For you don't know that. She puts it on everything, or she did at the time. But she was a real sweetheart, and we used to spend a lot of time in a little town called Lone Pine, California, where this was filmed, eating a lot of chicken fried steak, which that seemed to be most of what they had for dinner in that town. So as we did our evening off. But she was a real doll. She really was. He was right off of Bosom Buddies when he did 1 or 2 episodes of Family Ties, and he played Meredith Baxter's brother, I think it was, or brother or cousin or something like that, who was having an alcoholic problem. And Tom did a great job, and it was a difficult piece because Alex had, the Michael Fox character, had sort of worshipped his uncle, and to see him as a drunk was very disappointing to him, and, you know, sort of upset the whole family thing. One of the things I loved about Family Ties is there was a lot of funny stuff on it. I mean, great stuff, this interaction in the family, but they tackled some tough issues, you know, like alcoholism or drugs and things like this. They weren't afraid to manage some of those difficult subjects and yet make them funny. So, you know, it was great. Tom was marvelous, and that was the first time I met him. He was around for a couple of weeks, and you may know other people like Gina Davis. Was one of her early outings, was on Family Ties, in a particularly wonderful episode where we had her for a couple episodes where she was hired as a maid in the family. It was totally incompetent, and but one of my favorite lines from the show, and I always used to get ticked off at Michael Fox because we had to do so many takes because he'd laugh every time we'd say it. She fixed the toaster. Gina Davis, the rotten maid, said, "Oh, I fixed the toaster." And these things, the toast flew out black, flew across the room, and almost, you know, hit us. And I had a line where I had to pick up the piece of toast and say to Michael Fox, "If this were a Pop-Tart, we'd be dead now." And Fox could not contain himself. I was like, come on, we've done like 8 cakes, you keep breaking up. And so,
you fired that anti-tank rifle. Did you fire that for real? I heard that you fired that for real. Is that true?
Just about all the weapons I fired on Tremors were fire. Yes, they were real. They were. We fired all of those weapons. Usually, if you know the expression, half rounds or quarter rounds or something like this, where that was such a heavy rifle that we actually shot that at a pretty high powder level because the rifle itself was so heavy, and so there wasn't much of recoil. It was just, you know, it just sat there. It was hardly any recoil. So I think we used a little extra powder. So all of the real cartridges we use, obviously just the shell, nothing, no lead. And so they were dummy rounds, not dummy rounds, but, and usually with less powder than a regular round, because we just, you know, want to keep things down a little bit. I will say, a lot of people have asked me about this, the terrible thing that happened with Alec Baldwin on Rust. I knew the minute I happened to be in New Mexico when that happened, about the same time, and I was so sad to hear it. The minute I heard it, I thought somebody screwed up. Somebody screwed up big time. Because my understanding is you've got to be so careful with guns on the set. As any of you know who've handled weapons, you've always got to assume they're loaded. And when somebody hands you a weapon and says, this weapon's cold, i.e. unloaded, you can't trust them. You mustn't trust them. You've got to hand a weapon to somebody with the action open, show them it's unloaded, they see it's unloaded, and then, check everything. Check the magazine, check the barrel, all that sort of thing. Make sure nothing is caught in the chamber. And I was always taught in dealing with weapons, I'm not a big weapons guy, but I know my basics because I've had to. If this is my gun and I know it's unloaded and I set it down and talk to this gentleman, I come back and my eyes have been off that, I have to assume someone has touched that and loaded it. And so the minute I pick it up again, I've got to check it. Is this loaded? Did somebody F with it while my back was turned? That's good gun safety. So the minute I heard this on Rust, I said, somebody handed a weapon to Alec and said, oh, it's unloaded. He went, okay, fine. Wrong. You gotta look into it. You gotta check it. It's such a tragedy and so unnecessary. People didn't know what they were doing.
Who was probably your favorite actor to work with on any of the Tremor movies?
Well, I mean, I loved Reba because she was just a great sport. But and Kevin was Fred Ward. I don't know. I just love Fred. Fred and I had actually worked together a couple years earlier on something called Big Business with Bette Midler and Lily Tomlin, and it was a feature film, and so I had met Fred on that, and I'd always admired his work, The Right Stuff, and things like this, and getting to work together with him twice on Tremors 1 and Tremors 2 was just a real joy. He was a real gentleman, very talented, good sense of humor, just easy to work with, just easy, and a lot of times, other actors can be a little strange or cantankerous, like anybody in the workplace. You have your good and your bad, the annoying people and the people who are really sweet. And people say, I will just say it's difficult to work with somebody who's not being nice, And Fred was always just easy. Just, let's try this. Let's do this. Let's whatever. And so when I heard he passed away lately, it was like a gut punch. I hated it. I would have liked to work with him again. And I think the chances of our doing another Tremors 8 are probably less than none. But I mean, it would be lovely. But my dream was to get Kevin, who said multiple times he'd like to do another one, Reba, Fred, and I all together and do it just one more, just for the geriatric Tremors. But just one last shot at it with those people. Now Fred's gone, which breaks my heart. Good guy.
So you're telling me we're not going to get graboids on the moon?
Not as far as I know. Damn it. If they do, they'll land like this. Boom, they go boom. Just like a film. There was a series of films called In the Line of Duty, which all dealt with law enforcement officers who lost their lives in the line of duty. And this one was subtitled The FBI Murders. Full title, In the Line of Duty, The FBI Murders. And was based on a true story of the worst shootout up until that time in FBI history, where a number of agents were killed during a felony car stop. They were just completely outgunned by these guys. Ronnie Cox, the wonderful Ronnie Cox, was in it, and of course the late David Soul. There's another one who just bit the dust. Mortality sucks, let's just admit it. And they were both wonderful. Ronnie, as you know, went on to do a lot of music in his career. He sort of moved away from acting. He was starting to do a lot of his music, and with guitar work, and was beginning to do a lot of touring with folk music and things like that. Lovely man. David was just the best. When you spend that much time together on a film, you've got to build up a partnership, and all I can say is he was just easy. Nothing was a problem. We just discussed things and worked things out, and he was just again, a great colleague to have. The film itself was kind of scary. This was based on the true story of two guys who were just a scourge of the Miami-Dade County area for a while, a crime spree. And they caused a lot of damage before they were actually killed in this shootout. And the shootout we did took, it's worth seeing. It can be found out there, here and there on Netflix. I don't know where it's out. Oh yeah, YouTube or something like that. The shootout took days to shoot and was done so authentically that the FBI in Quantico, Virginia used that shootout as a training film, how not to do a felony car stop, because it was such a disaster that day. So they used it as a training film. It was done so well.
Two of you together was just terrifying. You're great.
We had a ball. One of my favorite. Truly, it was a great gift. Anytime an actor gets to do something very much against type, up until that time, that was about the 6th or 7th year of Family Ties, and so I've been America's, nicest father. And I always say Cosby was number one. I was like America's favorite Caucasian father, because he was always number one. But to be able to be offered that in the middle of Family Ties was a great gift to me. And one of my favorite reviews was in I think it was People magazine, where guys said, it took me 15 minutes to realize that SOB with the mustache was the nice father from Family Ties. So that was fun. Some lines, some things of Burt Gummer that I came up with. Well, I will tell you this. Most of the great stuff came from great writers. Unlike Robin Williams, I don't make a lot of this stuff up. I do from time to time. But to be honest with you, it becomes such a team effort that I forget what are theirs and what are mine. Particularly in the last, well, even in all of them, I was invited to contribute, to contribute. First of all, out of respect for good writers, you say it their way the first time. You do it the way they've written it. And then if you have suggestions of your own, you'll say, all right, we've got another take or two. What do you think if I tried this way? But you always check with them first. Because the problem is with throwing in ad-libs sometimes is that camera people and sound people and everything, they have the script in front of them. So if you insert a new line, they go, wait, where are we? Because they have to cut on certain lines and maybe move camera or know what people are doing. So it's good to keep it steady during the whole piece, so they know what's coming. So you don't throw somebody else off, because there's so many things they have to work at the same time. But they were always good in incorporating things. I just, one comes to mind, something called, in one of the films I said, Semper Fi is the Marine, I said, Semper Vigilans, always vigilant. That was a line I thought of. And I said, can we put that in there? Semper Vi, always vigilant, But there's a lot of things I like about Burt, if you don't mind sharing. I think one of the Burt he was such fun, such a great opportunity, because comically, he was obsessive compulsively disordered, right? So he's got OCD, he's got paranoia, and one of the great things about comedy is it's over the top. It's people who go to extremes in some way. And so the extremity of that character was always fun. And they'd always prepare him for one thing, and there would be a different sort of monster, which is one of the fun things the writers kept having with that. He's prepared for this, let's throw him something new that he's not prepared for. Blowing up his own ammo dump by accident, things like this, and just crazy things that kept happening to him. And one of the things I've always loved, and for the people out there who are gun enthusiasts, I myself am not a gun enthusiast, I know a lot about them, I'm not afraid of them. People say to me, Burt, everybody should have guns, right, Burt? I said, did you hear him say to Melvin in the first one? I wouldn't give you a gun if it was World War III. I honestly believe so. I guess Burt is a gun control guy. That is, not everybody should have them. There are people who don't have enough sense, enough just common sense to have one. So I've always loved the fact, I've always participated in this. I think Tremors is family friendly. Burt never points his gun at another human being. It's not one of those films. We're not killing each other. We're killing the bad guys, the monsters. And that's respect is an old-fashioned horror movie where it's the humans, the good guys, against the monsters, the bad guys. We're not fighting each other in this, you know? And the other thing I admire about Bert is as much as he tells you you're wrong and you don't follow his advice and you get in trouble, he'll still come to rescue you, you know? Yeah, jerk, I told him a million times. Will he go to help him? Absolutely. Bert is loyal in that way. So I mean, I love the character of Bert. He's like old-fashioned loyalty. You know, as much as a jerk as he think you are, he will go to help put his life on the line to save your life.
Yeah.
So I love Bert. Boy, there's so many favorites. I mean, one of my favorites is still, you know, say it, try and duplicate it the way I said it. I feel I was denied critical need to know information. Right? And so that will always be a favorite. I mean, that was just, again, to have him caught off guard. People will tell him one thing, he's prepared for one thing, and one of the ways they made Tremors so comically wonderful was the fact that you're constantly meeting something new that throw you off guard. Wait a minute. The most prepared man in the world is never prepared because of the mutations of these monsters. And so that's one of the things I always love. So that's one of my favorites. One that I happen to live by and sometimes sign on photos is something I think all of us can live by. In Tremors 2, he said, doing what I can with what I got. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That should be, all of us should live by that. Come on, it's all we have. We can bitch and complain about what we don't have, but on the other hand, what you do have, you can fashion it into something wonderful. You know, none of us has everything perfect. Some of us have liabilities, but you take those liabilities and say, how can I turn this into a possibility? So I love that line of Bert, doing what I can with what I got. Oh, Vanilla Ice. I don't have a picture of that. Have any of you seen that? Cool as Ice? Some here and there. Yeah, it wasn't this big hit. I thought it was the end of his career. No, I thought the end of mine. I had a wonderful time. He's a very nice, polite guy. You know, he was very popular in those days, Vanilla Ice, and you thought, oh, is this guy going to be a jerk? You know, very full of himself. He wasn't at all. He knew he was, you know, he'd not done a lot of film. He was not out there to show how big and important he was. He was a very polite guy. You know, I think a lot of showbiz people get bad raps, you know, because the misbehaviors get bad raps, right? They get all the press. And there's so many nice people out there who just want to get the job done, or just like you and me, and you know, they just want to do a good day's work, get a good night's sleep, and get a paycheck at the end of the week. And he was a nice guy. He was never full of himself. And I've got to say something about Fox. You know, when Mike Fox, when Back to the Future hit and he became this huge megastar, nothing changed for Michael. He never wanted anything special. He never was like, oh, I need a bigger dressing room. I need this, I need that. He was just one of the family. He always knew, and you see this today in what he does with Parkinson's and things like that, what a good guy he is. And he always said, I owe all my success to family ties, and I'm not turning my back on it. I'm not gonna leave now that I've had Back to the Future. I'm gonna stay through to the end of this show, because this is where it all began for me. He knew that, and he was very grateful for it. And as I say, you know, never pulled any of the I'm better than you stuff. We all got along great. We were a very boring show. People will say, what really happened on that set? I said, we were nice to each other. Meredith and I are still friends. As a matter of fact, I talked to her 2 days ago on the phone while I was waiting in the airport to come out here, and she and I are doing a play together next month as a benefit for a theater somewhere, and we get together time and again. Right now, we're rehearsing on Zoom 3 days a week. We're going to get together next week when I get back and start to put this play on its feet, as they say, and start to move around the room and get off the Zoom and into a real space. So she's still a dear, and I try to see Michael when I get back to New York from time to time, try to have lunch or breakfast together or something like that. Naturally, his activity is limited more and more because Parkinson's is a progressive disease, and I've never seen anybody take lemons and make lemonade the way he has. So bless him. He's an inspiration to all of us, and just a great guy. You can see where he came from. He came from a nice blue collar family, and his father was a constable, a cop, is what in British Columbia, near Vancouver. So his dad and mom were just salt of the earth people, and Michael's got the same thing. There you go. Okay.
Guys, give it up for Michael Groves.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.